Well, we're live. Welcome to DANK Live. I'm Dan Lutz, and Stephen Rowe is here, also known as Tank. Hey, Tank, how's it going?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. Sorry about yesterday. I got dissed and dismissed by the service, so nothing I could do really.
Yeah. Well, it's all right. Made it to 101, and you took
Yeah,
some time off. I got it. All right. So,
that's my limit. That's my limit. I got the 101. I'm like, take a break.
well, it's all right. We still have a lot to go through. I was still going to bring up uh, the Restored Republic via the GCR yesterday, but
Okay.
I didn't because of the timing and everything. I was waiting for you to come on and all the rest, but they were again saying, "Oh, it's happened, right? The GCR has happened. The people have been paid. You know, the numbers are."
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. We're all saved. The Chinese elders came through. I knew it. I knew it. It's all better now.
That's it. Yeah, all the money is flowing. Just hang on. The 800 numbers will be there soon.
Right. They're going out now as we speak. Wow,
So,
man, that is a tough program, isn't it? Gosh.
well, the reason I'm bringing it up, Restored Republic via the GCR, is because of the Serial Brain 2 new episode that just was put out today. And this was about Trump's trip to the UK. But what the implication is that that he got our independence from England on this trip. It really goes into depth about what basically a deal that was struck, and I'm looking at, we'll look at all the eyes that were going to be pointed at Britain after this declassification happens, right? So Trump has everything ready to go to declass and make Britain look like they're orchestrating the removal of Trump, right, and are orchestrating the politics through the esquires, the lawyers, the attorneys, and so he got us completely detached from Britain now. Maybe we'll see.
Maybe, as far as I know, Britain doesn't have any power over us at all. The trust, the unknown country, is really who has the ability to give or take away sovereignty. But
I
I
did.
don't doubt that.
I mentioned that too, but there's a political issue that may get some of the cabal tentacles cut off if it's done by the Queen.
I agree. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. There must be something of value there. I just, it's so convoluted. It's hard to say what it is.
Yeah.
But interesting. The banks again are of the opinion that the Chinese elders this time they're going to come through on Friday, right? So they're all going to get paid on Friday. So
This
Kim,
Friday or last Friday?
I think this coming Friday, yeah, this coming
Oh,
Friday,
okay.
they're already, even though they're on the absolute verge of collapse, right? Um, but somehow I guess the banks are run by, um, just a complete group of Neanderthals who, no matter how many times they get beaten by someone, they keep coming back. It's Stockholm syndrome, some sort that they just continue to think. Well, I know they've, I know they've lied to us every time for the past 9 years, but this time it's going to be different. This time it's going to be different. I bet
Well,
you the bankers go back home and they talk to their wives and their wives are like, "What happened? Did they come through?" And the bankers are like, "No, but it's my fault. It's my fault. I make them do this to me." And they're self-defecating and like hate themselves all the time.
that would make sense. Yeah. Well, I was just thinking if they get to where they're so strung out, right? They need to have cash, and they go to Kim again. She should say, "Okay, why don't you send to this account, create change account, all your excess liquidity, and I will go ahead and I'll multiply that for you."
Wait a minute. Then I would have a debt because they have negative liquidity. So please
Well,
don't do that.
but I say the whatever the numbers are that appear in your account that you could then turn into cash and pay people and things like that. It was just a thought, that excess liquidity, instead of them, turning it over to the Fed again, and not getting anything back this time, that excess floating liquidity, hey, put it in this account and let it flow, and then just a thought,
Hey, I'm for us having liquidity. Period. I mean, it's really ridiculous. I was I think about this all the time. I'm like, what is the breaking point? What is the breaking point? Like, how long are you going to hold us hostage? What I don't understand is how the Pentagon has an account at the bank, and the banks are, they they think they have the right to tell the Pentagon, hey, we're not giving you your money. Like, shouldn't the I mean, if anybody was going to stand up, wouldn't it be the Pentagon? I mean, wouldn't they show up like, oh yeah, like they just show up? I mean, I feel like show up with tanks. It'd be amazing. Like,
no, we have to invoke that Insurrection Act, and then they can, right? They can, walk into the front doors. So we're looking forward to that happening.
I figure if enough time goes by and they continue to do it, all this, and they actually bring that the people will do it, right? So whether the Pentagon wants to prevent a global collapse and the zombie apocalypse, or the people say, you know what, screw you guys, and show up and mob the bank, one way or another, the bankers are going to be ripped apart at some point. I would imagine, like, it's got to come to a point where it's like, listen, either cooperate, idiots, or like, it's fine, or don't. I mean, at this point, I'm kind of like indifferent. Not indifferent. Like, I want to start down. I want to get things funded, but I'm just like, okay, like, you guys have drawn a line in the sand. Like, it's like, maybe you should have spent less time, feminizing all your men, because then maybe you'd have a chance of fighting back. But it's gonna be the weirdest fight in history. It's gonna be like an army full of drag queens and bankers wearing suits. It's gonna be a mess. Sorry. I can't
Again,
help
it's the
it.
hissy fight, the slapping.
Right. It's like, yeah, that's how I feel like it's gonna go. No. Oh no.
Yeah. Well, the other serial brain too that was released the day before, kind of was covering a tranny in the UK party, right? That was kept away from Trump, that supposedly is pregnant. So
except for that's not possible, but okay.
Yeah,
Right.
but the Secret Service would not let her close to Trump. So and she's and this is and this is of course Prince Harry's new wife that he was introduced to by Michelle Obama. And then within a year they're married. So Trump gets elected.
No way! Wait, she's a transvestite. Oh, I love her. She was great.
Yeah.
She was in some show I used to watch.
Megan. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So Trump gets elected the next day. Michael introduced her to Prince Harry. 6 months later, the royal family is accepting her, right? Not of blood, right? Accepting her. They get married, and suddenly she's pregnant and ready to meet Trump.
Wow. Set up.
With maybe explosive results. So possibly this is an MK Ultra mind control individual set up and ready to, execute on the orders given.
Well, I know from a while back that the dukes and the middle guys of the royal family, they are very anti-Kim and pro-Illuminati rule the world. The Queen, though, from what I understand, has reconciled some time ago, and it was working with Kim, from what I understood. So, that the Queen and Trump working together makes sense to me. And Prince Charles, an evil bastard. He's always trying to kill his mom, from what I understand.
Yeah, that would make sense too. So if that's the case,
he got like the bad reptilian bloodline, right? Like he looks more like a frog than a lizard. Like all his coolness is out.
You're
He's
saying
like,
he's French?
what? No, not French.
I
Oh,
said
French.
sorry, that's an
Yeah.
old World War II kind of joke, right?
Yeah. Oh, great. Hey,
Oh,
so no, go ahead, man. Go ahead. I'll
no, it
finish.
was just another French joke. That's all right. My first business partner was French.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I used to make we'd have this little banter back and forth about some jokes. It was all good fun. Anyway, I was going to bring up another joke, but it's okay.
Well, today, when did you see that President Trump, he introduced this new renewable energy, program of some sort? Did you catch that?
No, I did not.
Yeah, I don't know what I don't know what the value of it was actually, but I know that he thanked like the governor and the senator, and then he thanked Kim.
Say what?
Yeah, he didn't
You
say
got the
Kim
clip
who.
on that?
He gave. Yeah, I do have the clip. I'll send it to you. But he just says. He
He didn't
just
mean
says,
Kim Jong Un, right?
no, he didn't give her whole name. He just goes, but he gave everybody else's whole name. Everybody else's whole name. He wasn't talking about Kim Jong Un, right? Like, so, so it was a state thing. So, like, he gave everybody, like, senator, blah 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 blah, governor this, and then he goes, I just want to thank everybody. I want to thank Kim, and then he just kept going, and I just like, I think that's our Kim. I think that's the Kim. And then what I was told is that when he was in London, that he actually referenced the Manna World Holding Trust in a public setting. When they were like talking
We
about
need
the
the clips,
options.
man. Well, we need the clips. Who's
I
got the
do.
clips on
Well,
this?
I have the clip on the Kim when he said Kim, but I mean that doesn't prove anything, I guess. But you know what? For me, I'm taking it as Kim. so, so it's fine with me. It's fine with me.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. What it would be. It would be interesting to see that. This would actually help if I had those phrases and the things that I'm trying to do here.
Well, didn't we talk about that? Like, didn't we talk about this on this show that you wanted? Like, we were talking about like Trump giving us a drop on
Sure.
on Kim. So I think
Yeah, we
that
did.
I think that's the drop. That was a Q clue.
Well, Q proof is a specific. It's going to have to tie into a tweet and a Q post. That's the confirmation that has to happen there. So, but yeah, I want to see that.
I want you to drop. I want you to drop in one of your tweets something about manna from heaven, and then I know, you're with us. Work it in there. Work it in there. You can do it.
Yeah, that's an easy one to work in. Throw in the word Kim.
Yeah, in one tweet, work the words Kim and manna, and I know that was for us. I know he's watching.
And then the Q post has to be in there and talk about the 13th bloodline family or something along those, the hierarchy and who's above it.
Yeah.
Who's above the Pacers? Who's the one that sits above the high table? John Wick reference.
Right. Who is the one?
Did you happen to see John Wick, the third one yet?
No, I'm dying to though. By the way, I'm dying to. I can't wait to see it. I
really was expecting to find Kim there. Well, at least being a woman or something like that. But it looks like a sultan, in the desert kind of thing was where it was. Oh, sorry to give that away. Sorry.
Of course it is. Of course, like a Jabba the Hutt kind of human figure. Right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, but they definitely demonstrated the draconian law in this whole thing. Right? So it was one I think important. I think pieces to take out of it is it's about the blood, letting of blood, and so on.
Yeah. So, yeah, but today we dropped this guy from who did the September 11th stuff, right? It's all relevant, right? So these people have been sitting on stuff. This guy was told by another guy who was like in the know, like this medical doctor, on September 12th, 2001, exactly what happened, right, with the towers falling. So he's known since then, and he spent the past 18 years researching it, right? And he had all this, he was all over the place, right? Like obviously wasn't used to getting interviewed, and his connection wasn't the best, um, but I got his information. So like we're getting solid, like incredible intel, like documents from everywhere. So there's we got documentation today on this incredible alkaline water supply that comes in through Sarasota, Florida, right? And it's been hijacked by all these corporations in different places, right? And the water has higher calcium and magnesium and other mineral deposits. It literally is like a fountain of youth, right? Like running underneath, and it runs all throughout. Like I I I I, I read it. I swear it said throughout the United States, right? It runs from all these different, and these corporations have taken over the land, each place. What? Meanwhile, not letting us have this water, but putting fluoride in our water, right?
Right.
Um, then this guy talked about this company, Aramark. You ever heard of
What?
Aramark?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Say again.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say that these are these minerals are building blocks for our body, right? And it's just the fluoride is one that actually our body will also use, but it's not a good substitute for iodine, right? But it kind of chemically will fit the same lock and key mechanism. So when it goes to grab the mineral, it grabs the wrong one. It grabs fluoride, and it basically has a defective cell, which causes us to prematurely age. Because as soon as it's been made, instead of having a long lifespan and then dying out, right, it dies more immediately. It's immediately self-destruct. So instead of lasting for 7 years, it lasts for 2. So then you have to make a new cell. So that process, we have our shortened telomeres, and that means that we age much more rapidly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the calcium and magnesium would be very good for us, right, to build up our bodies.
Right. And I got the documentation on this too. I talked to another guy today about this um, from Prepare for Change, I think they're called, Dane Air. And he was talking about this in 1947, after World War II, that they had this whole meeting and this documentation that everybody agreed on that the world was overpopulated, right? Back in 1947. And that's how we got on this path, because those laws they made, which are United Nations laws, obviously, um, they decided these supersede everything else. Now, how could a group, that decides they're the United Nations, have laws that supersede everyone else unless there was an entirely separate government that all the other governments were subject to, right?
Right.
From what I understand, this is why everything else has been made legal. It's under this higher order of law, which we know about, right? But nobody else talks about that, and
Well,
so that's why.
when the United Nations was first formed, the people in America were saying, the argument was, well, we don't want to give up our sovereignty. That was one of the topics, right? Everyone's upset. We don't want to give up our sovereignty to the United Nations. But they spun it in a way that says, well, it's just because, we're not really giving up our sovereignty, right? We're just in group agreeing, right? But in reality, it was giving up because you had to be a corporation. You had to be an incorporated entity under the United Nations, under the system, which is, again, under the Crown Corporation.
And all of those agreements have now been they're all null and void. So we can be sovereign again. So that makes sense. And that means that we can actually go with pitchforks and torches and take out organizations like the Environmental Poison Agency and the Child Pedophile Services and the CDC. The CDC goes back to the WHO, right? The World Health Organization, which is run by the United Nations, right? And which I think is such a funny name, right? The who, of course, that's what we're all trying to find out. Who gave you this freaking authority to do this, right? But but I guess in this original document, there's all these plans for how they're going to poison the water, poison the food. It's all okay. It's like, wait a minute, don't
Yeah.
we get a say in that? Like, please don't do that. Please.
Yeah, don't do it. Well, let me ask you a question. I was going to ask this yesterday about that helicopter crash. Now, when I first was looking at all the stories coming out, some of the lines were that it had to do with literally, and I said this yesterday, that the head of the Bilderberg Group was in the crash. Right now, it turns out that yeah, but I think he may have been the one that was actually dropped off by the helicopter, because that's the building in which he's the CEO of, is that business, but he was also running the 2019 Bilderberg Group meeting. So
Really?
I don't know if this was like a shot across the bow, where we had two senators and 4 police officers taken out within a week, and now we have this helicopter go down right there, in Manhattan. So I don't know if you had any information, you heard anything about any correlation.
I wish I would have known that. I didn't know all that. I didn't see it because I've been so consumed with other stuff. But
See what happens when you take a vacation?
I know. I'm sorry. I'm slacking. I apologize. I apologize. But that does sound exactly like what it is, by the way. Because I mean, that makes perfect sense. Because it wouldn't surprise. I mean, I like some of these things with the cops here in New York. It's a little too close for comfort for me, right? I do have connections with the NYPD, and I do, I know some of these guys, and I'm not talking about it because I don't want to make more out of it, but I do have connections with them. So some of that to me feels like it was a message to me personally. Some of the things that happened, which to those messages I say, suck it. I could care less what you have to do. Like, yeah, I'm not afraid of any of them. And I think it's great. I think that makes perfect sense. Actually, there's something to do with one of the reports I got was something to do with some kind of magnetic pull that was there, which that would make sense to me, that you had some kind of galactic message. However, if that was the case, I would have highly recommended that they would have taken out the head of the Bilderbergs. But maybe you just need somebody to tell a story, I guess.
It could be. The other thing is that building that it crashed into is very close to Trump Tower. So I wonder if the towers get armed.
Well, I think the towers are actually protected by Galactics. Actually, I think they have a force field around all that kind of stuff. I don't want to say force field is the right word, but it wouldn't surprise me that he got too close and it just naturally bounced back.
Could be. Yeah. Or they said, okay, we're gonna fire a shot across the bow, and the helicopter just dropped him off, and the helicopter leaves and then goes.
Yeah. Yeah. But too bad about the head of the Bilderberg meeting, man. That would have been a great score to take somebody like that out.
Yeah.
I guess I should be advocating for that.
And Hillary's brother, also died at the same time.
And that was the same time?
Maybe the day before or the night before. I mean, well, this happened, very early in the morning, and this other happened in the evening. So, I mean, this is relatively the same time. I don't know. If we lost 6 on our side, 4 police officers, 2 senators, are we going to look at another 6 going down on the other side?
Maybe.
I don't know. I'm just trying to see if there's any correlations, because this is a shooting war. Is why I'm kind of pulling this information together. Say, it's not just about information. Most of this is about manipulating the media in a way to present the opposing views, right? The deep state versus the freedom patriots.
Yeah. Well, I think there's something there. If they pose an actual immediate threat, you know, that could be the case, or just sending messages, I'm sure the pilot himself wasn't, anybody too significant that they needed to take out, And I mean, Hillary Clinton's brother, I guess he owns some gold mines in Haiti. That kind of speaks to some kind of you could say, because really Kim controls all those mines, so he doesn't have the right to them. So I guess that to me kind of makes sense. I would love to see some actual significant decision makers just fade out, just stop existing. I mean, not to wish them death. I mean, they can ascend on a cloud for all I care. They just can't be here anymore. But that would be amazing. Of course, but then people would worship him as God, so I don't want that to happen either. But I don't know. I'm kind of over these guys. I just feel like it's a joke almost at this point. It's like, okay. I mean, Nancy Pelosi, she was disgusted with Trump. He was insane that he was going to put taxes on Mexico. Then the taxes on Mexico, or the tariffs on Mexico, end up having them move 6,000 troops. Right? It's like you know like 1,200% more than they ever have put at the border ever, and which is exactly what Trump wanted. And so he does away with the tariffs. And then Nancy's like, I can't believe he did that. It's like, what? What are you mad about? That he keeps winning? Like, are you that mad?
Winning.
Like, yeah, right. Like, because all he does is win, like, and just make you look stupid all day. Like his temper tantrums. And then she's the only one slapping the table and act like a damn fool.
Right. And she's the one with the temper tantrums. Trump's turned that around on her too, and said that about her. So,
Yeah.
it does look like there is going to be some interesting. 4th of July is going to be pretty interesting. Independence Day is going to be pretty interesting this year. I was even thinking, I wouldn't mind being in Washington D.C. for Independence Day this year. That would be it'd be interesting. I don't think I'll be able to make it, but it would be something. I said, well, this is something I would attend.
Greatest fireworks show on the planet is here in New York, so that's where I'll be.
I don't know. I saw the one in Hong Kong.
You'd think it'd be better. That's just what I've heard. It's the greatest. I have nothing to compare it to, really. I've always been in New York. So.
Well, I mean, in Hong Kong, where do fireworks come from? Right? It's China.
Right.
And,
so they should be right.
I actually proposed to my wife on a boat in Hong Kong Harbor while all the fireworks were going off.
Oh, dude, that's great.
We're out on a boat, and then I had someone hold the camera, right, and then she has her camera, she's videotaping the fireworks going off, and I tap her on the shoulder. I'm holding the ring, right, and she turns around and she looks at me, she looks at the ring, she looks at everyone, and she turns back around and looks at the fireworks. She's so shy, right? She didn't want, so I had to tap her a couple more times, and she finally turned around. And then I asked her.
That's cute. That's cute.
Yeah, but she's extremely shy, so I did put her in the spot. Actually, I just brought those videos back up as I had them on another device. I just brought them. This was fresh in my mind. But for fireworks, it's beautiful display there, right? Anyway, so the fireworks for this time, though, I'm wondering if independence from England could be announced. I mean, literally be public about it and say, we're going to restore the original republic. We're going to dismantle Washington, D.C. We're going to get rid of the corporation. I don't think it's going to happen like that. But, certain things, to head us in that direction of being independent again.
we can't even get money in to get disaster relief to people that are homeless. You know, we can't bring project money in for free energy devices, for health care that actually saves people's lives. We can't bring money in for the basic necessities of people's lives. We can't bring enough money in to take out fluoride out of the damn water. Like, you know what? The pomp and circumstance, you know what? We're 5 years away, as far as I'm concerned, from having any reason to celebrate because we are sure as hell not free. And until they demonstrate some kind of integrity somewhere, and I'll tell you what, I was talking, I had Josh Conway on, he's a veteran. And I'm telling you right now, remember this Conway for Congress, Josh Conway. He came out, he's always had political aspirations. I mean, he's from South Carolina, and man's got more integrity than anybody I've seen in government. And I'll tell you right now, I'm going to put every dime I can behind that man to run. I'll do anything to put somebody like that in Congress because I know he cannot be compromised. He will always advocate for the people, always. If I just had 20% of the Congress of the government advocating for the people. You know how different this world would be? 30. I mean, like if we get like 40%, just give me something to work with that they're actually more concerned about doing their job than getting their job, right? Because that's all they do. They just spend all their time trying to get the job and then hold the job, you know. And anybody who actually advocates for the people, they get killed. Nancy
Yeah.
Schaefer. They take her out of office and she commits suicide. I mean, come on, that doesn't happen. Crazy nonsense.
Well, the system is definitely not set up for us. It's set up, for itself and to basically continue, for the, promise of a good job, well-paying job, right? I remember when I was young, that the government jobs were not well-paying, right? That they were actually, the only good thing is that it was for life, right? You'd never get fired. That was the selling point, right? You could get one of these jobs, and no matter what happened to the economy, you'd never lose your job. Right. But then, that flipped around, and now they get paid more than out there in the real world.
Josh Conway, I mean, he's got great political connections actually, and he was sharing tonight that actually it's legal for people in Congress and Senate to get insider trading information.
Sure. Yeah.
I was like, why? Why is that legal? Why is it illegal for us and legal? That's ridiculous.
That's one of the things that I admired about Newt Gingrich when he was a Speaker of the House. He changed that. He said every law that is applicable to everyone else applies to them.
Right?
And
I mean, isn't that what
as they got rid of him, yeah, but he had to change it to that. And of course, when he left, they changed it back.
Jeez, what a pack of scumbags! I swear, like
again, this is. I've described this before because it was told to me by my friend that was in Congress, and he described it and said, they pay for people. This is the road to the dark side. They basically get them on stock tips initially when they first come in, new off of the street. I'm sure that OAC has her stock tips on what to put her money into, right? So that she can, become wealthy, and they start that road, and then you have to follow with what they want, or they won't give you more stock tips. And then if you just keep going along with it, they give you some, other things. They lead you down the sexual depravity, road, right? Slowly until you're doing satanic sacrifices. It's just one. It's their mechanism for control, and that's it's crazy.
Sad. It's really, it's not funny, but it's just like it's like a bad movie. I mean, so basically you're aspiring to be like, hold a position in a satanic cult. That's why they hate Trump so much. It's like, how did you get here? Right? Like they must see Trump as like white trash, right? Like you're not part of this. Like, you're not supposed to be like in this position.
Yeah, see, it's like he was in, his family was in real estate, right? And his family had wealth going back. And this is a place where you could actually literally build wealth over the family dynasty. So he's a dynasty, right? The Trump dynasty. and that's why they haven't been able to get at him, because he followed the rules and he stayed out of problem. That's why, if you think of 2.5 years of investigation plus whatever they investigated on him years before, and plus the hammer on him for 6 years, they'd find something if he actually did anything wrong, whatever it would, however small it would be. So he had to have been walking a very clean path for his entire life, right?
Yeah.
He just had to, right? In order to basically make it past this, because they have nothing on him,
Nothing.
nothing. They would have found it.
Yeah.
And that's why I go back to this time traveling theory, right? Is that Tesla technology got moved into the hand of his uncle, and they were able to outline a path, right? And so this is the way to make it go forward.
Well, that's what George Magazine implies. JFK Jr.'s magazine. I mean, he prophesied like it's 1997. He's saying how to survive um, the future, and he's talking about things about Hillary Clinton, and uh, will she be indicted? Will they? I mean, like, why were you talking about that all the way back then in 1997? Like, because Benghazi didn't happen until what? You know, I mean, which would be like the first thing that we would have thought to indict her on.
No,
I mean, we should.
I had plenty before that.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure, but I mean, like publicly, like no one else was talking about that, really. So that's pretty fascinating to me. That makes sense.
The one of the things that I thought that was when Vince Foster ended up, you know, committing suicide and then dragging his body 2 miles away, and then completing, when he went down. The story back then was this all had to do is he couldn't take the pressure that was coming down, because Canada was going to sue them for tainted blood. It was tainted with AIDS, because they sold the prisoners' blood from the Arkansas jails, right? And then, so this was what he was going to roll on, right? And so using this, and so there was evidence back then about this, but they did not. Uh, uh, he went away, and so did all the other conversation about this went away. And I can say that wasn't the only thing, but there was plenty to go after Hillary on back then, and Bill, frankly. But they're protected status, right? They're in the group. The laws apply only to us, not to them. So anyway, I've been against you know that that political force since the beginning, as far as I could, since he popped up on the scene as becoming running for president. There was
Well,
something wrong from the
talking
beginning.
to Arkansas, I mean, talking to those guys, like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the Clintons are a mafia. I mean,
Yeah,
it's crazy. I've never heard anything like it. I mean, well, I guess I have now, but I mean, just getting the details of all the things they're involved in. I mean, it is like, what are we doing? Like, we
yeah.
are a society
Cargo
run by
shipping
criminals.
companies. That's another thing to look into. Their connection with the Clinton Foundation and cargo companies. What are
Mhm.
they transporting?
Children. They're transporting children that they get from Child Protective Services. And Nancy Schaefer actually had videotape of Hillary Clinton getting on a plane with a whole plane full of kids, taking them out to China. I mean, that's
Wow.
just the reality. I mean, that's the reality of what it is. And everybody knows. I mean, I know the NYPD guys, they have known for years what was on the Weiner's laptop, right? Anthony Weiner's laptop. And it was filled with I mean, just horrifying material. I mean, it's not a joke. Men left, I mean, grown men, cops, right, left after watching this, throwing up and crying. I mean, it was horrendous, right? And nothing happened. I mean, last summer, there was rumors that Hillary Clinton was going to run for mayor. I'm like, oh my
Right.
gosh. This guy today was talking about Rudolph Giuliani being a mobster, and I'm like, yeah, Cuomo. I mean, like New York's filled with mobsters, right? And they're running everything. Like, who knew? Well, I mean, I guess everybody kind of knows, but I'm like,
Yeah,
we
it's one of those. You're desensitized to it because you really get so numb to it because there's nothing that you can do. Right. This is the feeling you get. No matter
yeah,
how bad it is, what can you do? Right. Because even if you try to speak up, it gets shut down. You get shut down. The people around you get shut down. And the only kink in this was electing a president like Trump, right? That can blow right through it all and literally harness the power of the patriots in the military to really push this out, push this agenda.
yeah. But that's okay. Look, you know what? I tell you, being someone who has felt that way, and I don't feel that way now. I can tell you, I've got my own hot list in New York. Cuomo. I'm gonna come get you. I promise. I'll find a way to make sure that whatever he's actually involved in will be exposed. De Blasio too, all of them. I cannot stand these junkyard dog animals that are running this place and make all these evil things acceptable. And that's okay. You know what? Like, I am built for the fight. I love it. You know what? When we're about to break through on this thing, and I promise you, I'm going to make this the one of the most incredible, joyous times in New York history. It is going to be a different place. And I've got this beautiful family who's in my network, and they've got great history, like really incredible history, and they were really just a solid, incredible family, right? And there was a time way back when who was it? Rockefeller used to give out pennies, to the poor. And his like arch nemesis was this other guy who also had money, Neville, I think his name was, and he would give out like nickels, right? When Rockefeller was giving out pennies or something like that. And I love this. Like the whole family knows the story, right? It's really cute, but they got an incredible family history, right? And they're just good people. Now they've been beat up though. I mean, they've been beat up because they were ruthless and mean and evil. But this one woman in my group, who I'm not going to say her name, but I don't want to get in trouble, but she always tells me, she's always like, Tank, we have to take New York back. So I promised her that we will together. So I'm determined.
Okay, so you're running for mayor?
Well, listen, I'll tell you what. I'm already building my political team, my allies, right? Because I got um, Joshua Conway in South Carolina, Conway for Congress. Keep that in mind. Conway for Congress down there. And in New York, I'm going to get rid of all the banks, and there's only going to be tanks. They're going to be, Tank of America. It's going to be the Wells Fargo tank, and we're gonna take it all back.
Yeah,
Take it all back.
that'll work.
Uh,
Yeah, well, I'd have to come there and then vote because I'd be not a resident, but I'm allowed to vote in New York, right?
anybody can vote. Anybody can
Right.
vote. Listen, I don't care what it like. I'll make all type. Whoever's here. Whoever's here. I will run the most absolutely ridiculous campaign in history. I will I will find a way to spend more money than anyone has ever done to make sure that everybody knows my name. And I'll be everywhere. I'll be everywhere.
It. Oh, and there you go. Dun dun dun. And this has been a paid promotion for Tank of America. Well, is this a phone call or did they knock him off? It's all right. We got a good run in here. I'm gonna go check out our little group here, our chat room, and see if there's any questions. Let me get it loaded up here first, and then We'll see if Tank makes it back on. Maybe yes, maybe no.
I'm here, man. I'm here.
Oh, you're here? Okay, I was
I'm
just
here.
pulling up the chat room, but okay, good. You know, our group here. Hang on, I was just pulling it up. So I'd revert to the chat and see if there's any questions. But it's all right. Glad to have you back. Was that just a phone call?
Yes.
All right.
But I've been getting so many phone calls. I I can't get to all of them for the first time ever. I mean, like I just can't get back to people in time. So, anybody out there who's waiting on interviews to be admitted to the Guardian Camelot, we might have. I actually have one of our one of the people who got a trust and they've been wanting to interview, and they were so disrespectful and rude that they were talking about Kim and say I knew she was a fraud. I'm like, really? Like this? You're the kind of person who doesn't get in. Because like, don't listen. By the way, if you think Kim's a fraud or I'm a fraud, don't do anything with us. Just go be part of somebody else's hate group. We're not like that. We don't want that.
Right. Yeah, we don't need to bring in the negative. We don't need to try and convince anybody, right? That doesn't want to be convinced,
Yeah,
right?
I don't have
Providing
anything to
information.
prove you. Right.
Yeah, we can provide as much information to people that don't want to hear it, and they won't hear it. The people are still waiting on the GCR. It's going to happen. It's happening today. They don't want to hear the message that they're being lied to.
Right.
Eventually,
Right.
they'll get to it, but it might take them another year. Who knows? I'm just keeping thinking, it's today, it's today, it's today. They can't say tomorrow anymore. And another call comes in. All right, so let's see if we have anything in the chat room. Waiting for Hank to come back on. If that's actually the case. All right, let's go back to the top. And we're on the top chat. Let's go to live chat. Let's see all the messages. Again, any questions? Put the letter Q and then the question right after. You know what? I didn't give the link to TUI yet. That just reminded me. TUI, I'll send you the link. All right. Okay, so Coco saying, I heard once they placed all people who didn't want to pay tax on this planet were the anarchists. Okay.
So
Oh, you back?
yeah. So that was Michelle Walker, and she just told me that the podcast from today that we did today got sent directly to President Trump's personal cell phone. So I'm like, all right, we're making progress, man. We're making progress. Hopefully, he has time to listen.
That'll be good. Yeah, that's fantastic. You got to get the information there. Some of the information that I'm making headway here, right, and telling people about, we're talking about transferring money to the Philippines, right? What do they all say? UMLA, UMLA, UMLA. UMLA is, anti-money laundering,
Oh,
right?
right.
Right. And I say,
Which is the biggest joke in the world, because we all know the banks love money laundering.
yeah,
They love
yeah,
it.
but the fear that they're putting out there, right? And so who are the gatekeepers? They're all saying, "Oh, we're very restrictive now. It all has to comply with UMLA." Well, I said, well, just know that this would be very much compliant with UMLA because it's never been through any uh, criminal enterprise at all. It's brand new created money on the spot.
Right. It's
So
literally the asset being transferred into cash at the M1 level by the only person at the M1 level. So literally, it's impossible to launder it. I mean, if you receive it directly, it's impossible to launder it.
Right. Yeah, it's impossible. So that's what I'm trying to educate them. I said, listen, you have to really understand what the system is. This is going to be brought down from a private trust that's going to that has asset, and they're completely authorized to bring in asset and turn it into cash. The U.S. Treasury will sign off on it. Right. So, if you want to check out your codes, the code will be generated at the time. So I'm trying to educate them so they have the conversation, right? Because they're all going to go to umla, because this is what they're being trained to do. Their education and their training to follow this simple idea of umla.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, so of course it's completely compliant. It's brand new money. Never been in anyone's hands.
Yep. So simple. It's so simple when you think about it. It's and everyone's been kept from that reality. So everyone's always trying to say, "Well, have you thought about using financial instruments?" And I love Kim's response to this. Whenever people ask that, she goes, "I don't need financial instruments. They all exist within the trust I manage, or that I run. Like they're all part of the account. So the financial instruments were designed to launder money. They're not really. It's like designed so they can steal the asset. But if you
Right.
give someone back the actual asset, you know, currency has a whole new meaning, right? It's actually your connection to the real asset. It's incredible. So
Yeah.
it's pretty exciting.
So I said, I also point out, I said, well, Trump has accepted the money, this way. So, shouldn't the Philippines also? I said, if the Philippines doesn't take it first, Fiji will.
Right. Right. Well, you'd think Fiji would. I mean, by now it seems like Fiji would have, you know, been like, "Hey, man, like the manna's actually here." Like, but probably what happened is the Kingdom of Manna, bribed the governor there. He's like, "Don't whatever you do, don't trust the Manna World Holding Trust because the Galactic Council that we speak to, they removed her." It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, they did. Yeah, they did.
Well, it would be good to have the document that basically, shows the dissolving of Kingdom of Mana, or the dethroning, however, whatever you want to call it, from separation. Because I know I've had a couple more people say, hey, they point to a Speak project, and you've got the documents up there that show the Kingdom of Mana is the one. You
Well,
don't have the document.
we actually, it doesn't say that the Kingdom of Mana is one. The reason why we posted the documents is because it shows the Kingdom of Mana doesn't exist without Kim. Because Kim
Yeah,
is
I
the
know,
one
I,
that
I
rules it.
got that, but the first read on it, when people go through and they pull this down and they read it, I said, well, it looks like it's the Kingdom of Manas who we have to deal with. So it's like the other document that says that Kim has removed them from power is not there. So it's kind of
Yeah.
where is what does that look? What form did that take? What did that look like? So that at least the people out there that are that are now getting these documents from the Kingdom of Mana, are going to be able to say, well, what about this one? And then how are they going to react? Right? Then there's something there's paperwork to react against. Otherwise, they can point to your website and say, "Hey, see, look, we're valid."
But you're not valid, Kingdom of Mana, because Kim says you're not. The same reason why you exist is because Kim said you exist. Before that, you
Yes,
didn't.
I got it. I'm just
No,
pointing
I
out
know.
this is what I had two people ask me about maybe about 2 weeks ago, that were both came out the same thing. One was our friend in Russia, right?
Oh
That,
yeah.
that was asking about that. So anyway, it would be something good to at least explain that the because the documents are just up there, what kind of raw, without like any.
Well, there should be a caveat, actually. I mean, there should be a little paragraph that actually explains it. I'll go check, though, because
Yeah.
that should actually be written on there, because we actually put that on there that the Kingdom of Manna has since been dissolved.
Yeah, I'd make it like the first page of the PDF, right? So
yeah, that's a good idea, actually. Yeah, it's a good idea. I'll add that.
So just that this is a historical document showing the history, something along those lines.
Yeah,
Just
showing that exactly what I said, that this proves that the Kingdom of Manna only exists because Kim gave them power, and they recognize Kim as the sole sovereign, of which they don't have any authority to take that from her or remove her from their mythical council. Yeah, I'll write it nicer than that, but yeah, I'll write that.
Yeah.
Write that up.
All right, good. With that, I think we'll help our friend in Russia and whoever else. Anyway, we have we have some good things happening, but I guess there's no other update that you can provide. We really didn't kind of cover any of that today.
No, I'm just waiting to see if Kim, I mean, the fact that Kim, I don't even know what the term is she used. I know what roots are, but it sounds like it sounds to me like she basically tore up their whole operating system, and they're blind, right? Now, if they're blind, that would, beg the question, well, how can they function? Well, I don't think they can. I think that I think the banks are on the verge of real collapse where they're not going to be able to fake it anymore. So the only option is for Kim to basically say, okay, enough of the bullshit. Like, you guys are done. And just completely, she'd almost have to collapse their system at the same time resurrecting, the actual system simultaneously, which is kind of what I think she's doing, if I understand correctly. So I think the next few days will be exciting, and I'll let you know. So.
All right. That sounds good. So should we cover anything else, or are we good for today?
No, I think we're good for today, man. Sorry
about missing yesterday. Good to have you back.
yeah, my vacation's over.
Yeah.
All right, man. Yeah. Cool.
All right. Be sure to get Unseen installed, so in case we need to resort to that as a way of communication.
You got it. I'll set it up today, and I'll text it over to you.
All right.
All right, cool. Everybody have a good night. Thanks, Dan.
Good night, everyone. See you tomorrow.